Imagine you walk through a museum and see a painting like this entitled "A Gentleman in Adoration Before the Madonna." You figure that baby Jesus is holding an apple and immediately associate that with the sins of the world. Or you look at this Caravaggio painting, Boy Bitten by a Lizard, and understand that a pair of cherries is a sexual reference. This is the third part of a series about the symbolism of fruit in art history. The first two parts looked at the apple, gourd, grape, orange, pear, pomegranate and strawberry. And this video looks at the cherry, lemon and pineapple. Quentin Matsys painted this intimate Madonna of the Cherries around 1529 and it contains three fruits. At the bottom is an apple, and as discussed in the first part of this series, in religious paintings, an apple symbolizes the original sin of Adam and Eve, and the grapes refer to the wine of the Eucharist and the blood of Jesus. But the cherries are most prominent here, and they are a reference to heaven as they are considered a celestial fruit. So the painting summarizes the main story of Christianity with three fruits, beginning with the original sin, then the suffering of Jesus for the sins of mankind, which allows people to go to heaven. But the cherry is a red fruit, and as we have seen before with fruits like the strawberry and the pomegranate, that means that it is also simply associated with the Passion of Christ, which is the leading theory for the meaning of the cherries in this Madonna of the Cherries by Titian from around 1515. And the cherries in the Madonna and Child with Fruit by the Belgian artist Joost van Cleve, painted around the same year as Titian's painting, have a similar interpretation, symbolizing the future bloodshed of Jesus, also known as the Passion of Christ. Talking about cherries, there's another work I have to mention for those who like small details in paintings. If you look carefully at the famous Arnolfini portrait by Jan van Eyck, you not only see the oranges symbolizing wealth, but through the window there's also a blooming cherry tree visible. And as with everything in Van Eyck's paintings, that is not just randomly included. In this more secular setting, the blooming cherry tree is a symbol of love, quite appropriate for a wedding portrait. In Northern Europe, the presence of an orange and a lemon were seen as symbols of wealth, just because those fruits did not grow locally, and it would thus signify the wealth of the owner of that painting. But if the lemon was peeled in a still life, it was also a sign of time passing, and thus the importance to make good choices in life. For works from Southern Europe, a lemon was associated with Easter and renewed life. But perhaps more intuitively, the lemon is associated with sourness and bitterness. It may look pretty from the outside, but it is pretty sharp in taste on the inside. Look at this 16th century Madonna painting, where Saint John the Baptist offers a lemon to Jesus. It's a symbol of Jesus' transition from being a baby to adulthood. Jesus would no longer drink the sweet milk of his mom, but the lemon signifies that he will start tasting the bitterness of his future life, which is the plan that God has with him on earth. There are other symbolic meanings of the lemon though. One clear but relatively unknown symbolic meaning is based on two passages from the Bible. One from Leviticus 23, verse 40, where Moses commands that the first fruits should be given to God in thanksgiving, and that first fruit is a lemon. And the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 3, mentions that the lemon is a symbol of his love for Jesus. And together these two passages explain why in this painting the Madonna is presented with a lemon. It's an offering to the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus. And there's another painting where the lemon tree is prominently featured behind Jesus, his mother Mary, and his grandmother Anne, and in this case the lemon tree symbolizes their lineage. It is not entirely clear to me why a lemon tree is used here instead of another type of fruit tree, But if you have a clue, please leave it in the comment section down below. My best guess is that the lemon tree is an evergreen, meaning that it never loses its leaves, so it may symbolize stability and continuance. You may be wondering about the symbolic meaning of some other common fruits today. But keep in mind that almost all the art I discuss here comes from Europe, and some fruits just didn't grow there for a long time. For example, the pineapple was only introduced in the late 15th century, and it would take another 200 years before the first pineapples were successfully grown in Europe, as you can see here in a painting from 1675 showing how King Charles II of England receives the first pineapple grown in England. So whenever you see a pineapple or some other exotic fruit in a painting from before the 19th century, it almost always is a reference to luxury and wealth, even more so than the citrus and the orange in the north of Europe. I hope you enjoyed this mini-series of 3 videos about the symbolism of fruits in art history. As you could probably figure from this video, it's not always easy to understand what a certain fruit means, as it often depends on where the painting was made and in what setting the fruit appears. But there are definitely some clear patterns as well. For now, this is the end of this series about the symbolism of fruits, but I'm happy to hear any questions or thoughts you may have about this subject in the comments section down below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell if you are subscribed, so you will be able to see when new videos appear on this channel. Thanks for watching.